I feel like a big thing too is remember why you're even doing this. Like, do you really want to just sprint to sell a site for like that's cool, like and get the cash out of it, or are you actually passionate about a certain space or a niche and want to be the expert, or maybe you are the expert? Mm-hmm. Like, so it's really thinking, okay, so what are your motives for creating something new, or maybe trying to leverage this time of crazy multiples? Mm-hmm. Because honestly, there's always going to be opportunities, that come about. So you want to make sure that you can stay on the course and be consistent with this, because it does take time.
This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and Flowchart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolfe and Joe Fier. Hey!
Is this thing on?
This thing is on. We're recording.
Oh, okay, cool. Yes. Doing this remote recording again using Riverside.
Yeah. Actually, I think this is the best way to make our therapy sessions, honestly, is using Riverside, because the one time we tried to do a video therapy session in person, we had the most ghetto rigged camera setup where we tried to tape iPhones to two different tripods and put them right in front of our face, and we actually got
Horrible.
15 minutes into one episode and then went, all right, this is really awkward. Let's start over.
It's like, where do my
cameras
eyes
around?
Yeah, where do I look? Do I look at you? Do I look at the camera? The camera's in this weird, awkward position, kind of in eyesight, but kind of not.
Yeah. So Riverside just works better for these episodes.
Yeah. So there's a little tool for you if you're not trying to look for a solution.
Yeah. So Riverside is not a sponsor of this episode either. But
not yet.
Get with the game plan, Riverside.
Get with it. We're your evangelists. So therapy session. These are always fun. And if this is your first time joining us for a therapy session, this is our kind of solo episodes. And
duet.
We just like to call them. Yeah, it's our duet episodes. And this is where I don't know we kind of know what we're going to talk about, but
we start with a couple bullets. That's about it.
Yeah, and then we just see where it goes, and I don't know, they're fun. I look forward to these. I know we both do.
Yeah, it's we record one of these and put it out on the last Tuesday or Thursday of every month. So it's basically the last episode of every month is one of these therapy session episodes. And a little behind the scenes on these is that we actually record them just a couple days before they go live. So most of our interview episodes that we do, we're recording those anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks before they go live. Sometimes we've even gotten to points where we're recording episodes that are going live 2.5 months later, where these therapy session episodes, we're like, all right, we need one episode a month where we can talk about current events, and we can talk about what's timely right now in our business. And so these are actually recorded just a few days before they go live, where all the rest of our episodes are recorded way in advance.
That's where we have to, sometimes we get confused talking about topics that aren't actually released yet on the podcast because of that issue.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So we might tease some future episodes coming up.
Yeah. We'll be like, remember when we taled about that with Bruce Clay? And I'll be like, yes, I do remember when we talked about that. That episode goes live in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So teaser. Yeah. We recorded, 3 episodes yesterday. So coming off, one of those big, long podcast days are always... takes all your energy, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually telling Heather last night that I felt like yesterday was one of the best podcast days. It just felt like it was I don't know. We were in a good flow. I felt like all the guests, even though we didn't chat with them prior to having them on the show, which we normally do, man, everyone was just, I don't know, it just felt good, There was a good flow to everything, and it was super fascinating. Just felt good, man.
Yeah, they were all good, really, really good episodes, and it's kind of rare that we have a day where every single guest is somebody that this is our first time actually talking to them. And yesterday we
talked about that. Yeah. We were I don't know how the dynamic's gonna be different, but let's see, and it all worked out great.
Yeah. Well, before we get too deep into what we're going to talk about, make sure you grab the notes for this episode.
Yes.
If you go to flowchartgroup.com, you can sign up for our free Facebook group. And when you sign up, there is a little questionnaire that pops up with 3 quick questions. One of the questions is your email address. If you give us that email address, we will send you a link to where you can download the most recent notes. But you got to be quick, because the notes for each episode are live for about 2 weeks. So this episode's notes will be live for 2 weeks and then they'll get pulled down. So make sure you go to flowchartgroup.com, give us your email address, and we'll hook you up with the notes to this episode. All right, that's out of the way. Let's get into what do we want to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about a few things. We have some little mini agenda here. First one was someone in our community, or maybe multiple people. I forget what it was, but we had
it was one person, but I think other people tacked on and said, yeah, they'd love to hear the response.
Yeah.
So
so we had an episode months back with Matt Diggity, and he does a ton of affiliate marketing. And we also had another show, our podcast with Empire Flipper.
Greg Elfrink.
And they were kind of, they know each other, the two guys, and they're both talking about how there's just crazy multiples right now for both affiliate sites and media sites. Basically, these sites that have some ongoing, revenue coming through, they have attention, and it's kind of built as this media site. And we'll explain this more in a bit. But Matt Diggity mentioned, hey, right now it's crazy with the multiples, and it could just be the environment we're in with the business model and, all probably tons of factors. But he's seeing about 40x multiples, 40 times revenue of those types of websites. So you're able to basically get your revenue up to a certain mark. And then obviously this is very simplified and we have not gone through this process with them. So there's probably a lot of details, but the whole thing was, oh, wow, you don't really have to be generating a lot of revenue through this kind of website if it's positioned correctly and, sold to probably the right buyer and all these other things. But the point being is there's some crazy high multiples right now. So if you have a website that's doing this and you are looking to sell or leverage some of this timing, then some of these questions we got in the group were like, all right, well, how do we do that? Because we talked about in that episode, we said like, oh my God. So that means like, get your website up to what, 500 a month? Is that what we're for?
I think we did the math, and if you get a website to making $500 a month, theoretically, based on the multiples that these guys talked about, you should be able to get somewhere in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 for that site that's making $500 a month. And so, in one of our post-interview outros, we did make a comment about like, man, if you can't get a website up to $500 a month, maybe you should be looking into different businesses. Which that was sort of an arrogant statement in retrospect, because
snarky, Matt.
Obviously, we've been doing this for 13 years and we have the benefit of experience. So I kind of feel like an asshole for making that comment in the first place. But somebody did go onto our Facebook group and say, well, you made that comment. Can you maybe map out how you would get a website to $500? And we thought that was a good idea.
It's a great question. And it is a snarky comment. But you know what? I think it's a great challenge for everybody. Because let's be honest. Yeah, if you are listening to this show and you're listening to all these strategies and, you hear us freaking talking about all these interesting things we're up to, experiments, you can get it up to $500 a month, and there's a lot of niches. We're not in a bunch of different niches.
Is it niches, Joe?
Niches. They're
Okay,
niches now. Over the niches. It's just too much effort to say niche. So, yeah, I know. I'm done playing both sides. I'm American, dude. No.
There's literally a whole thread about this in our Hustle and Flowchart community, just in case you're not getting the inside joke here.
Go to flowchartgroup.com and join the conversation. But the whole thing is like, that's a hell of a good challenge. And why wouldn't you challenge yourself like that and see if you can make it happen if you have some roadmap and you have all these strategies here in the podcast alone. And if you're, in the membership, you got even more. So
well, let's give them a little bit of a roadmap.
Well, there's two ways that we were, that we were thinking. And how about you start first with, because it's a little bit more directly aligned with that Matt Diggity episode. And then, and then we can break down a model that's kind of similar to what we're doing that someone can replicate in another niche as well.
Which actually could also bolt on to the model that I'm about to say as well.
Yeah.
So, so in the context of what Gregory and what Matt Diggity were talking about on those episodes, they were talking about getting an affiliate site up to $500 a month. So we wanted to specifically start with talking about what we would do if we were trying to get an affiliate site up to speed. And there's kind of a few ways to approach it, right? You can invest time and you can invest money. You can, if you want to do it right, you're probably going to be spending a little bit of both. But the way I would probably do it is I would pick a niche that I want to create content in. Just for a random example, let's just talk about the health niche. We want to talk about something other than marketing, and there's plenty of affiliate offers in the health niche as well. So let's say you create a blog in the health niche. I would start by hiring some really good content writers over on ProBlogger, and you are probably going to lose money in your first few months because you're going to need to invest to create this thing. But if these numbers are true that these guys are talking about, I mean, you're going to get some pretty damn good returns at the end of the thing.
So at ProBlogger, really fast, how much do you look to spend for a writer over there?
Yeah, so it's actually jobs.problogger.com, I believe. They actually have a jobs board there, and that's probably the best place we've found writers. And the prices change, so I'm not exactly sure.
Well, I don't care about that. I mean, we can figure that out, but like if we're looking to hire a writer, what's a budget that you would say is good to shoot for when you're hiring someone?
It depends. So it's such a subjective question because like you can, there's a few ways that we go about doing content on blog posts, right? We can go and hire like really budget writers and pay them, 10 cents a word, get 1,000-word article written for $100, right? Is the math right on that? I think so. So for $100, 1,000-word article, if you're paying like 10 cents. Now that's going to be kind of a lower quality article where you're probably going to have to go in, spend some of your own time polishing that up and really getting it dialed in. So you can go that route. We've gone that route before where it's essentially somebody is writing the rough draft for you. You're coming back through and polishing up that rough draft. So there's that path, which is a little bit more time, a little bit less investment. Obviously, the least amount of investment is writing it, or financial investment is writing it yourself, right? But we like to get the process started. So in the past we've gotten somebody to write a rough draft. We'll come in and polish it up, right? That you could probably get 1,000-word article for $100 or so. If you want to get somebody that's like really, really legit, you're looking probably more in that 25 cents to 50 cents a word range to get like a really high quality writer where you're not going to have to follow him and clean it all up. And then there's also considerations about the length of the post and stuff like that. We were talking to Bruce Clay, which this episode I don't believe has come out yet, but Bruce was actually saying, there's all these articles out there saying that the ideal length for a blog post is 1,700 words and all that kind of stuff. He's like, if you Google almost like any keyword, most of the articles on the front page aren't even close to 1,700 words.
Yeah,
so
there's all these other factors that
there's all these other factors. You want basically the best response for the query that they searched for, right? You want the most relevant response for whatever query they searched for. So the length of the content is less important than being highly relevant and providing the solution to the problem they're trying to solve by having that search. So as far as like the cost for the writer, there's like such a wide range of considerations. But let's call it $100 an article or something like that as you're getting started, but maybe you want to go in and polish those up and clean them up a little bit.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I would probably start by, doing a few articles a week on this site to sort of prime the pump with content. I would make sure I have some way for people to opt into an email list, right? Use like a convert box slide in, embed some opt-ins throughout your post, have an exit intent pop up, do some of those kind of best practices to collect emails from people visiting the site. Obviously sprinkle in your affiliate links for different offers within the content that you're writing. And then I would go and prime the pump using PPC. I would go and buy Google search ads to start driving traffic into this. Now, that's not a necessary step. You could wait a lot longer and just hopefully it ranks over time within 7 months to a year. Maybe you're ranking and that's when it generates the revenue. So there is that sort of patience play that you could do as well. Or you could go start priming the pump with PPC ads. And I think a lot of people will start thinking, well, man, PPC ads, that sounds like really, really expensive. But the thing is, it depends on the intent of the keyword. So, for example, if a buyer intent keyword is going to cost you more in PPC than a sort of information intent keyword. So going back to the health blog example, let's say that we wanted to sell some like health vitamins and supplements or something like that, right? If we were to target the keyword best multivitamin, that's a buyer intent keyword. Somebody who's searching that keyword is looking to buy a supplement, right?
A little bit more pricey.
Exactly. You're going to pay a little bit more for those keywords. If you're doing like, this supplement versus this supplement, that's a buyer intent keyword. People are looking to buy one of those two supplements and they're looking for the comparison, right? Now, an informational blog post would be something like, what does vitamin C do for my body? How many push-ups should I be doing a day? Right? That's stuff where they're just looking for information. They're not necessarily looking to buy something right this moment. The information intent keywords are way cheaper per click, right? It varies from niche to niche to niche, but like in the marketing space, for instance, if we're buying like information intent keywords, we can usually get them for 18 to 25 cents a click, right? If we're doing buyer intent keywords, we're usually looking more in the like $2 to $3 a click range. So there's a huge range, but if you're driving PPC traffic into your information that doesn't look like you're trying to sell anything, but there's some affiliate links embedded and you're collecting these people on an email list, that's how I would prime that pump to start getting people there. And then once they're on the email list, then you can start talking about some of the benefits of the supplements and start doing some comparisons to some of the supplements and do some of that buyer intent content, but through email instead of on the content itself. So that's sort of the overarching roadmap that I would follow if I was starting something new, trying to get it up to $500 a month to then flip it. It wouldn't be a super fast flip. You'd have to put some time and energy into actually getting it ranking and getting the sales volume consistent, because you can't just have one $500 month and then be like, look, it makes $500 a month. No, you need a good set of like 6 to 12 months of history of it generating $500 a month.
Yeah. No, I like that strategy because it's something that we've taught before in the perpetual audience growth course. Like, it's very similar, and that's how we've driven a lot of our affiliate sales just for our business. It's a great way to grow a brand. You do create this kind of media site asset online, and I think that's what I was going to say, is like, to speed up the process, you could buy another website that already exists. So maybe you want to look for a site on Flippa or Empire Flippers or something like that, and or maybe buy biz sell. Sometimes there might be a site out there that maybe has some SEO juice already or has some existing content that you can modify and optimize. And then do the same strategy. There's nothing to say you can't do that. Obviously, you're going to invest a little bit more, but there's ways to invest without really going out of pocket at all or too much. Listen to some of the Roland Fraser episodes that we've had, and you'll get a lot of ideas there.
Well, I would say, like, if we were starting completely from scratch, I would probably follow the model that I was just talking about. If we were going to do this again right now, today, in our current state where our business is now, I'd probably follow more of what you're talking about. I would find something that's already got some traction. We know a little bit of marketing, so we're going to go in, sprinkle a little marketing juice on it, make sure we're collecting emails, optimizing a little better for SEO, maybe adding a few new content pieces based on hotter, more relevant, timely topics, turn around and flip it a couple months later. That's probably the route we'd go now, but I don't think that's a route that most people would probably feel comfortable starting at.
Yeah, but I mean, shoot. Yeah, do some research around that. Maybe look at some models and sites that are selling right now, and kind of you can get some ideas that way as well. Go to some of these websites like I just mentioned, and that's because we used to do this stuff. We would actually analyze a lot of the websites that were for sale, and we did used to flip sites. It was a totally different strategy. It was more just like, hey, here's a business in a box type site that you can go run with. And it worked. We were flipping them for like $1,000 a pop or two.
The multiples were a little different back then, because
totally.
you're talking 2009-ish, 11 years ago,
nothing
12 years ago.
Multiples. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we just figured, you could flip a site, kind of like flipping a house. All right, just put some paint on there, flip it out. I mean,
buy a junky website for $500, put it back on Flippa for $1,000 after you spent a couple days working on it.
That's pretty much what we did for a while, and that was like, we need to get some cash in the biz. Let's flip a site or two.
Dude, that was early entry. That was like before the WordPress classroom, before Video Sales Lab, before all of that shit.
That's cool. No, yeah, we haven't. I don't think we really talked about that too much.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a sweet model that you just said. And another model that we could talk about that could either be tacked on top of the one that you just said, or one that's fresh and brand new, one that you start yourself, or maybe you acquire something, is the route that we kind of take with being a curator of content and using a core piece of content that then allows you to create a bigger site and a bigger play with your brand, more awareness all over the place. So essentially starting something like a podcast, or maybe it's a YouTube channel, Facebook Live. You could probably piggyback off a Clubhouse if you want to do it that way. Start some rooms and record them and then, send them over as content elsewhere. But this whole idea comes from the way that we run our podcast and our business, in that this podcast is like the time we spend recording these episodes is really the biggest amount of work that Matt and I put into creating content, period. I mean, everything starts here for us. So we have this map that we sometimes present, like when we're at TNC, we've spoken at a lot of other places. We use this map and we show the podcast is in the middle. But then, we have a whole lead magnets pop out from the podcast. Those are the action guides. And we have all these other things, that feed this kind of media sphere or ecosystem that we've created. But the key here is, if you want to start from scratch, think about how you can create content and be the curator of that content. You don't necessarily even have to be an expert. You can go into any niche, go into the health niche, and even if you don't know anything, well, guess what? You can use a website like SparkToro or something and figure out who are the leading influencers and people who have an audience in that space. Invite them onto your show, give them a good reason why they should join you, have a cool looking branded stage or this whole thing. Even if it's new, you can still make it look appealing. You might have to pay for some of these people or bribe them somehow but if you are just there to facilitate the conversation and not be the expert, you don't have to be the expert, nothing wrong with that. Let them create the content for you. And all you're doing is thinking, okay, cool. I'm doing all my work in this podcast or live stream or YouTube video. They are actually creating the real gold here. I'm just asking the questions. You can even have a set line of questions. You don't even have to think on your toes. Keep it easy on yourself. And then have a great repurposing strategy. So, deck out the website with a blog, show notes pages, put your stuff on YouTube, basically have that content live on the main platforms, but get the traction from some of these people you're bringing in it's all the stuff that we're talking about all the time. Get that momentum throughout all these connections. I mean, you can create some referrals now, and this is all the whole thing. You can generate a lot more content with not really a lot of effort in terms of you thinking about what to create. It's like they're creating it for you. You're just bringing them into your machine that you've created. And on back of that, you can obviously do affiliate stuff like you just said, Matt, and you can create a membership site. So kind of like what we have with the Evergreen Profits membership, $15 a month or $59 a year. Well, guess what? Start stacking memberships, give them a good reason to take a next step with you from your piece of content. For us, it's go get the notes, go to Flowchart Group, plug in your email address. That's our opt-in. So that's like first step. So get them on a list. But then after that, give them a good reason why they should upgrade and pay you monthly for maybe some exclusive content, which is also curated from your guests. Again, you don't need to create this stuff necessarily. You just house the content in something like Members Pro or, something that you can control, a membership site. And then now you have recurring that you can control, and you also have affiliate revenue. And I'm pretty sure you can get to $500 a month fairly, I don't know any time frames. It depends on what budgets you're putting and how you're marketing, but
yeah, and just to clarify something real quick, though, that is an amazing business model, and I think that business model is the model that you can great recurring revenue for yourself in, but you're not going to get the same multiples that we were talking about with like an affiliate site, because that isn't passive like an affiliate site. So what you're talking about would create $500 a month probably much quicker than the path that I just explained would make $500 a month, quite a bit quicker, like within a few months versus like a year. But saying that, because you are the one conducting the interviews, that's the sort of initial seed for that content, if somebody was to buy the site, they would have to either step into that role or hire somebody to step into that role. So you're not going to see those like 40x multiples on a month on monthly revenue that you would see from like an affiliate site. So if we're thinking strictly of like what's the best path to create something that's $500 a month so that we can flip it for that 40x multiple, you're probably going to want to go more that affiliate content route. If you're looking for what should I do to start to get up to $500 a month so I have a solid revenue stream for myself as quickly as possible, the path you're talking about, I think, is the best path.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder with the recurring revenue, because that is not in the affiliate side. So but
it's also that you lose the passiveness of it.
You do lose the passiveness, yeah, and that's where it gets interesting, and where you got to do your own research of like where you want to take this thing, because both sides. I mean, there's a lot of value in that, and kind of both sides. You're curating the content. You don't even need to do the creation, like the side that you said and the side I said. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be the expert, and I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways, because I feel like everyone needs to. Yeah, not everyone. The default thinking of starting something fresh is typically, I need to be the expert in this thing. I need to really know everything. I need to be knowledgeable. I can't look like an idiot when I'm talking. Like, that's okay. You don't need to be that person. You know?
I think I had this big aha moment. I think it was at Bliss Control, maybe, when we went to that event, like Frank Kern's event. I don't know. It was an event that Trey Smith spoke at, right? And Trey was on stage, and I don't even remember the whole presentation, but there was a little piece of the presentation where he was talking about one of the first businesses he ever created was a hypnosis business.
Guru.com, right?
Yeah, and he basically explained that he went to Guru.com, found somebody on that website that was a professional hypnotist. He hired them for like $1,000 to record like a bunch of self-hypnosis sessions for his company. He owned the rights to those recordings after paying that person on Guru.com, and then he turned around and he sold access to these like hypnosis recordings. I don't know what he charged, but he said it was a 7-figure a year business, and it took him like a week to create.
So how about this then? So to make the model I laid out passive is you go and team up with someone who can be the voice of your podcast or show, someone who is in that niche and maybe passionate, and offer to pay them or split revenue. You can incentivize them to actually do all that legwork for you. Maybe you're the one that's architecting things behind the scenes and being the marketer. So that way, now that person can be invested in this thing at some level. And when it goes to sell, that person goes along with it, and all you're doing is just making the machine work.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a nice little flipping flow there. Flipping flow.
I like it. So those are two models, but also it could be a hybrid thing.
You could bolt them together. Yep.
I mean, think about it. So starting it all over in 2021 to get to revenue that's recurring revenue, and in one of two ways or maybe both ways, fairly quickly, that's not leveraging really your own brain for the content. It allows you to kind of be in any niche you want to be. That's how we would go about it. I think it's cool.
For sure. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
So hopefully, those of you who listened to our episode and went those arrogant mother effers said that anybody should be able to make $500 a month. So there's kind of how we do it. But saying that, patience does.
It takes time.
It takes time, right? Yeah. I think you're going to be unlikely to go and do any one of these models and get it to where it's making that kind of profit right away and be happy with it, right? Like you could prime the pump by spending money, but then you're eating into the profits that the site might potentially make, and then there is going to be a tipping point where it is making much more than you're spending, and so
I feel like a big thing too is remember why you're even doing this. Like, do you really want to just sprint to sell a site for like that's cool, and get the cash out of it, or are you actually passionate about a certain space or a niche and want to be the expert, or maybe you are the expert? Like, so it's really thinking, okay, so what are your motives for creating something new, or maybe trying to leverage this time of crazy multiples? Because honestly, there's always going to be opportunities, that come about. So you want to make sure that you can stay on the course and be consistent with this, because it does take time. Yeah. And the only reason why we've been able to do it is because we actually enjoy what we're doing. So there's that too.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind too, and I think it came up on both Matt Diggity's episode and Greg Elfrink, definitely Greg Elfrink's, is that you need to show a history of revenue. So you can't just the whole idea of flipping, I think, there's flipping where you go and buy a site that has existing traffic, existing revenue, you beef it up, make it better, and then sell it again, right? That's how you can actually make like quick money doing what they're talking about. If you're building something from scratch, there's no domain name that exists yet, and you're just building it up from the very, very beginning, nobody's going to buy your business if you're just showing 3 months of $500 a month revenue. You need to be showing a history of traffic, a history of revenue. The buyer needs to feel comfortable that the results that you're generating off the site, they're going to continue to generate those same results. Yeah. So that's just something you got to keep in mind, and that's where the patience and timing plays in if you're going to build something from scratch.
That's what we did not know back in the day, in the Flippa days, when we were selling those sites for 1,000 or whatever, is, if we actually were running revenue, because we'd run a little bit of revenue through it, we'd make some sales, but then we'd make like 5 sales, and we're like, cool, all right, now it's time to flip. It's like, well, we didn't know at the time, but we weren't maximizing what we had, and we could have gotten a lot more if we just maybe waited out a few months of sales.
Yeah, I would literally build a website and then go and buy some Google ads so that it saw some existing traffic to it. And then I would get, 4 or 5 sales on it. And then I would go list it on Flippa and be like, look, it's got traffic and it's got sales. Obviously anybody can go and look at the stats and be like, the traffic and sales started 2 weeks ago. But, but that's the reason we were getting, 3x multiples and not 40x multiples on our monthly revenue.
It was a cool little cash grab. And I feel like it got ourselves into thinking that this is possible. Yeah. It's always been in our mind that there are marketplaces where you can either buy a website that exists and build on top of it, or you can always sell your assets. Like, what? Don't just let it get dusty and, move away out of your mind. If you want to move on to something else, sell that thing or do something with it. Don't let it just die.
We've always talked about this concept as like our ultimate safety net. Once you know how to flip a website, you have a safety net there that whenever, if there's ever like a cash crunch or, you need money for something, like that is our strategy that we can go to go and generate some revenue. We can go on a site like Flippa or Empire Flippers, or, Flippa has some of the lower end sites, so it might be a good place to go and buy something really, really inexpensively. Empire Flippers is more of a high end brokerage. So, Flippa might be a good place to start for like really, really inexpensive stuff to play around with. But you can go buy a site on Flippa for $500, do some real basic marketing on it, email list growth, opt-in forms, some additional affiliate links, maybe update some of the content, like real basic stuff, and then turn around and double your money, right? Like that is our backup plan if we're ever like, shit, we're in a huge cash crunch, we need to bring in some cash now. We can do that, and it would be like a week-long process to bring in a couple grand or something.
Yeah. If shit hit the fan, there's always assets out there to optimize and flip, And I feel like everyone has our own specialties. Like, you can just go to these sites and almost be like, oh, there's an opportunity. They're not doing email. Boom. I can make my revenue back off of that investment, like with just doing that. Or, oh, I know paid ads. Okay, they ain't doing that. They're just doing organic stuff. Or, oh, this Google update just hit. Like, hint, there's one coming in May. This is another Bruce Clay toss-up. Maybe they just got smacked by Google and they're trying to sell their site for cheap. And you're like, haha, I know to optimize this bad boy. Bam. And then you like jump. I mean, there's all these cool opportunities. So it's like really honing in on what you're really freaking good at and why you would even do this. You don't want to just buy something to buy it and be like, oh, this looks cool. And now I'm going to figure it out. It's like Flippa and Empire Flippers. They give you a lot of data where you can actually look through the metrics and really understand how a site is worth that. And sometimes they're not actually worth that. And you're like, bullshit. But it's a cool, like, that's how we were learning about this whole M&A, mergers and acquisition kind of game way back then. And didn't know what the hell we were doing, but at least we were like, oh, okay, so that's possible. It wasn't like 10 years later until we're like, oh, okay, now we understand the structure and like what actually makes that thing valuable.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. That's a lot of stuff, but that's great.
Yeah. Cool. So the other thing we were going to talk about, well, we have a couple other things. We wanted to kind of share a little bit behind the scenes on the PodHacker stuff.
Yes.
So we did a whole therapy session. Last month's episode was all about PodHacker. We explained the behind the scenes, who helped us build it, how we put it all together, how Joe and I, we basically just sat in the content role and the outreach role, and then every other role to get PodHacker out there, we sort of delegated, which was
Such a breath of fresh air.
It was amazing. It was also a learning process. We had to get a lot better at delegating to keep our hands out of the pie. But
dude, I was stoked on the launch, though. I mean, I think in terms of getting everything. Okay, so we only did an internal launch, so it wasn't like this big blowout thing. That's not what we were even intending for, but it was very deliberate. And I feel like we built a solid foundation with a freaking solid team that made it happen. Like, and you're right, yeah, it was a learning curve for us to allow that to happen and take our hands off it, and steer the vision more or less and create the content. But man, like, the feedback has been really cool, really cool. So a lot of you are pod hackers who are listening. You rock. Thank you, and keep the feedback coming. Harsher feedback, the better. Not the better, but
there is no harsh feedback. Nobody can find anything wrong with it, Joe. except for people couldn't figure out how to double the playback speed, which we've now fixed. So now all of the problems are solved.
Oh, you did fix that? Cool. They figured it out. Nice. Yeah, I mean, like, it's really cool to get the feedback. I mean, this is the whole intention. At first, we wanted to blow it out and kind of try to sprint with this launch and do it all big in a finite amount of time, in Q1 to just like, but we're like, do we really need to do this? And I'm so happy that we chose to chill a little bit, but at the same time, we got this thing done in 6 weeks, I think it was, from concept of PodHacker and to launch of PodHacker without a plan in between. I mean, we did have a plan, but it's like we went from no plan to launched and already getting feedback, and now there's people in there that are diving deep and actually growing their stuff.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that was like a cool container of time where we're like, holy crap, we got a lot done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've had testimonials from people inside the group already. They're like, I've doubled my downloads, and I've only been a member for a week now. But yeah, it's crazy. I was gonna make another comment and I lost it. So what was I gonna say?
Where's your brain? Your brain?
Where is my mind? I'll find it again. But go ahead and keep on and keep on with your keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. Well, I just wanted to. I think the biggest thing with PodHacker is that this rollout has been intentional, and I think it's one of the very first times we've really let it be intentional and not feel like we got to get this thing launched and out. Like, I feel like that's just. I don't like that energy. It's kind of frantic, and we haven't been like that. And I think our team has helped. And go, Matt, you found your brain.
I found my brain again. I was actually going to talk about the timeline, because the timeline from the time that we said, hey, let's open the doors for PodHacker and sort of regroup with it. We actually did launch PodHacker at the end of 2019. And then we closed the doors, and then we kind of forgot about it. And I think we just sort of thought, okay, PodHacker's in the past, right? That's something that we did. It's done. And then we decided, you know what? That's too good of a freaking brand name to not make something out of this. And so from idea to concept was really about, like I think 6 weeks. We had a couple masterminds. People said, you got to go do this. Specifically, Josh Bartlett was one of the people who pushed us and said, hey, you got to launch something. But I think originally we were even like overly optimistic. I was like, let's get it done in 4 weeks. And I think we shot for 4 weeks. And I think we ended up pushing out the cart date by only like maybe 8 or 9 days, a week and a half or so, which is still pretty damn good from idea to like people are buying it and actually doubling their downloads 6 weeks later.
It's the best thing we've done. I mean, the fact that, so Matt and I always work well in sprints, and I feel like it's funny because like I have a call after this, and Matt, you're like, I hate containers. Like, I was like, shit, bro. Really, but those are also, it gets us to get shit done and done well.
Different context, but yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. For me, it's not, because like I actually been going back to this Tim Ferriss quote. I think it's from 4 Hour Workweek, and it was in my little Readwise, and it's one of these things. And it's like I always create nearly impossible deadlines for myself, like impossibly short time frames to get stuff done. And I feel like that's what we did, and that's what I've been personally doing, and it's making everything, it's going to like the Chris Kermitzos approach of start ugly, even though I don't feel like PodHacker started ugly. But at the same time, we know there's way more to it. but it gets the thing out and live and legs and momentum and feedback, and then bam, you can friggin' keep going and going with it.
Yeah.
But it's like that could have been extended over weeks and weeks and weeks. And like, yeah, it's not quite right yet.
Yeah, no, I totally agree in the context of getting a product out there. Like you gotta set your sights on that tighter deadline and get it done. When it comes to creating content, my view on creating content is not to rush content. So when it comes to things like the podcast, and I know like, okay, we got to cut it off at a specific time, it actually gives me more anxiety knowing like, well, shit, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get out all of the stuff we want to get out. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like deliver the value that in my mind I think this episode can deliver. So I don't like the constraints when it comes to the creation of individual episodes of content or pieces of content. I think the constraints are very, very valuable in the context of going from start to launch, but in the context of like, let's create a podcast episode, but let's give ourselves a constraint of only being able to do it within an hour. I hate that. Like, no go for me. That just gives me extra anxiety around the episode. And Joe's laughing at my pain, but cool.
I am. It's just funny, but we'll continue on. We did start late though too, so that added to the constraint. But carrying on. Oh, Matt is aggressively shaking his. Throw your coffee at the screen. I dare you.
Well, it's empty now. It was actually Ambitious Edge.
Ooh, hey, that's what I'm drinking too. Greg, we need some sponsorship cash. What are you waiting on?
Yeah, so back to PodHacker.
Matt like blanked out on that whole thing. I don't know what that was all about, but carry on. PodHacker.
Yeah. Anyway, so with PodHacker, I'm pretty happy with the way things went. So when we first opened the doors, we opened it for 9-10 days, something like that. And we made this conscious decision to let's go ahead and open it, let our Evergreen Profits members in first, and then after members of Evergreen Profits are in, then let's open the doors to our entire list, and then we'll sort of shut it down on the whatever the following Sunday after launch was. I don't remember the exact dates off the top of my head, but we went ahead and we just did kind of like a cohort model. We decided let's let a finite amount of people in this window, and then let's see what feedback they give. Let's see where the gaps in the content are. Let's figure out like as people go through and questions pop up, that's going to give us ideas for, okay, we need to go make a video about that because that's something that we missed. Or if people are having technical issues with logins, okay, well, before we ramp this up at scale, let's get all these little things tweaked and fixed. One of the things that I'm not going to name specific product names because I don't want to call anybody out, but we were using one specific tool to build the whole membership site. It turned out there was some hassles around that tool, or not the membership site, sorry.
No, Page Builder.
Yeah, we're using Members Pro. We love Members Pro. No issues with Members Pro. Everybody go buy Members Pro. With our Page Builder, we were using one Page Builder to start specifically. We ran into some headaches and hassles with it and decided, okay, we need to switch to a different builder before we reopen the doors because if we have to deal with these issues at scale, it's going to be a nightmare. So, it gave us this opportunity to find little things that we need to go shore up about the episode or about the product.
And that's what, and that's why it started ugly, but also, throughout this, we were very deliberate and we looked at like, okay, what broke, which nothing really broke actually, but what is just not optimized to scale. Because we haven't rolled this out with affiliates yet, but that will be the next phase. And we've had, and this is what's really cool, and I think a testament to this is a pretty good product. We've had a lot of people say, hey, I really want to promote this thing. How do I do that? Like, not yet. we gotta button up some of these things and want to make it up, fix some of these gaps that were there beforehand. So, but yeah, I think it's a big win. So we'll report back when there's more that we've learned around PodHacker, but it's in that cohort-y model. It's kind of like it's an open and closed type of thing. So if you're interested, podhacker.com is always going to be the place to go check out. And if it's not open right now, at least throw your name on the list and you'll get the opportunity. Yeah,
I'm trying to think if we have any other things that we wanted to bring up around PodHacker.
Not that.
Yeah, and the Facebook community is going great as well. So everything's moving pretty smoothly. The doors are actually closed as of us recording this, but by the time that you're actually hearing this in a few days, they might be open again. Not totally sure. We'll see.
Not sure, but yeah. Well, a couple other topics I know you wanted to bring up. Kind of some timely things was NFTs that I know we're not experts on at all, but it's interesting. It's a little something to kind of look into and see how you can apply it to your own business, or maybe, I don't know, somehow play in that game, in that sandbox for now, because there are a lot of applications for it. And I don't know, it's interesting because, you could probably define it better than but there's so many ways to kind of leverage these things, it seems like.
Yeah, well, the concept of an NFT it first came across our desks, our screens, I don't know, whatever you want to say. When we had Gary Henderson on, he was talking about his rally coin, which, the deeper I dove into it, the more I sort of realized I don't believe a rally coin actually is an NFT. It's more of a, by the way, NFT stands for non-fungible token. It basically means that it's like a cryptocurrency kind of like token, right? But they're attached to like art. They're attached to podcast episodes. They're attached to videos. I still haven't dialed in the best way to describe what an NFT is, but like when you think of like Bitcoin, you can take Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin is this many US dollars to one Bitcoin, right? Whatever the timing is, $60,000 is equal to one Bitcoin, right? A non-fungible token, an NFT, is like a piece of art. So the value is subjective. The value is whatever, people are willing to pay for that art. So the way a lot of these NFTs work is these people will create like a piece of art and they'll do like a drop at a very sort of inexpensive price or a lower price thing. They'll put out a limited number of these NFTs, and then when they're all sold out, there's no more being made. You can't. There's not going to be any more of this item. So now it's a collector's item, a digital collector's item, and then there's secondary markets where people can resell them. So there's stories of people buying like these like a piece of art for $1 that's attached to an NFT. So it sort of validates that they are the owner of this piece of art. They bought it for like $1, and then they went and sold it on a secondary market for like $10,000, and people making a whole bunch of money off these NFTs. And I don't think I explained it very well. We're not experts on it, but it is something that I've been trying to understand more and more of lately.
We can maybe link that YouTube playlist that you sent me. That could be kind of cool and helpful for people to kind of get a grasp. I think the biggest thing here is just to know that there's a different structure of, it's all leveraging the blockchain and crypto type stuff. But NFTs are these unique collectibles that do have a value, but it's kind of subjective, just like art or playing cards, like baseball cards or whatever. But it's cool because like there's a good application. The Kings of Leon, the band supposedly was like the first, or I don't know, one that I think it was like in the Rolling Stone or something. I read this, and the way that they're using NFTs are these very finite coins that they're giving their fans, but they're giving them perks and rewards and front row seats if someone owns these limited amount of coins. There are all these cool things, access that they get, and also collectibles, like even custom art, but it's all like digital. So that means that they could sell that, or those things can go in a lot more in value, and then someone else owns it. But just, I like the tangibleness of their use rather than just some random, like there's NBA Hot Shots or Top Shots. Is they're essentially like, basketball playing cards, but it's like a moment in time where you get these freeze frames or these images, graphics.
No, they're video clips. They're like
video clips. Yeah,
they're actually videos.
Yeah, of like some specific time frame, and then you technically own the rights or have the license to that, and they're exclusive for a limited number of coins or tokens, these NFTs. So my recommendation is, if you want to understand NFTs, ignore everything we're saying and go down the YouTube rabbit hole of NFTs, because why are we even talking about an NFT?
I mean, it's something that I wanted to bring up because it's a hot topic and a lot of people are talking about it, and it's something that we're interested in. I don't totally understand why people would want to collect the NFTs yet. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I understand conceptually how they work, but why people want to collect these digital items that are kind of hard to display and nobody else really knows that you own them. Like, I understand if you're going to like buy one and then you think it's going to go up in value really quickly, so you're going to go sell it, right? I understand that like flipping market, but I don't understand why that second person, the person that wants to buy it for $20,000, wants to own this digital line of code unless they think that it's going to be worth more than $20,000 in the future. And this sort of like increase of value of these things is still sort of confusing to me. So if you're listening to this episode and you know somebody that's a complete expert in NFTs, that'd probably be a great thing for us to live stream to our group or something.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Because I think that the coolest thing, and this goes with blockchain in general, is like the usage of these things. Like as a collectible, meh. But it's like a usage, like, oh, you can, if you're a super fan of something and you can get front row seats and all these like cool exclusive access to something that no one else can get, but you're like a super fan of something like Kings of Leon's, for instance, like, you don't care about the resale price, probably. I mean, maybe you do, but like you want to experience it. So
yeah. Well, here's what I don't understand about the Kings of Leon thing. Here's what I don't understand about that is I don't understand how that's unique to an NFT, right? Like, because Kings of Leon could just go like, hey, we're gonna sell access to our fan club, and our fan club costs $10,000 to be a member of, and if you're a member of our fan club, you get front row seats at every concert.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how that concept is unique to NFTs at all. But
it had other stuff in there. It was like NFT like things like the digital art. It was like layered with stuff. But the thing I liked, it was like it was collectible, but it also had like a usage element to it as well. So it's like attaching all that stuff, which some of these collectibles standalone like art, you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I understand the value exchange of that, of what they're doing, right? The Kings of Leon thing, because it's like, if I pay X amount to buy this NFT, I'm basically buying access to front row seats and all of these bundle of things that they're giving me. But I think like in the traditional NFT sense, the like what you're seeing on all of these other sites that are out there right now, like most of them, it's just like you get this piece of digital art, and it's a piece of digital art that anybody can download and own on their computer and have. But because there's this line of code here, it is you who actually owns it, but everybody else is still allowed to have it and use it and see it and do whatever they want with it.
That's weird. Yeah,
and I just don't get that.
Yeah, I know. That's the part that who knows, and who knows what's traditional of NFTs anyway. Literally, freaking came out just a couple years ago or something.
I think that's a fairly unique. I mean, they've been around for a while, but the concept has been like really, really popularized just literally within the last like 6-8 weeks.
Few months.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting space to follow along to and see what's going on. It's just, I think we're bringing it up more so that our audience is like, if you're not aware of this, like go kind of pay attention, because there's some interesting stuff going on over there.
Be aware of it. I think it's smart to be aware. It's just like blockchain in general, because we had more crypto type shows on, but it's like, and you know, we're not experts at that either, but like sure as hell, a lot of uses of the blockchain and getting familiar with the tech a little bit behind it and what's happening. I think it's smart to do. The world's going that way. Decentralized. Matthew, I'm going to text my next call and say I'm going to be 15 minutes late so we can cover this next topic if you want to head it up.
Cool. Yeah. So the other rabbit hole I've been going down, if you got a bingo card, I said it, rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole. You say that too much though. You gotta mix it up. Like Lexicon's a new one, actually.
A Lexicon, yeah. It will be a new one in future episodes that you haven't heard yet.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing a lot is I've been really kind of analyzing YouTube channels. We're trying to like up our YouTube game with a lot of the content. That's why all of our podcast episodes have video versions now. You know, we've got like Jacob is just freaking getting so amazing at making these YouTube thumbnails now, and like so we're really trying to up the YouTube game. So I bought this book. Tommy Traffic mentioned a book on Facebook called The YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves, and I bought that book based on his recommendation and just started to get like really, really excited about YouTube. So that book, it sort of breaks down the like how the YouTube algorithm works. First of all, it tells you the history of YouTube, and like how YouTube got started as a dating site. Spoiler alert, right?
Was it U-Tube?
It was U-Tube, and it was like it was designed to put like personal videos on there with the intention of finding a date off the back of these videos, right? But anyway, it goes into the whole history, but then it breaks down exactly how the algorithms work and sort of what you need to do to make sure that you're doing the things that the algorithms want to see so that you get reach. And it got me like really, really pumped up. And I highly recommend the book to everybody, but it caused me to start going down these YouTube rabbit holes of like looking at the most popular channels and trying to analyze like what are these guys doing that are making them popular versus these channels that can't seem to get like any traction, right? And I've noticed some things. Mr. Beast is one of the channels I've really been kind of dissecting lately. And
while you're eating Mr. Beast burgers?
I've actually never tried a Mr. Beast burger, but I did watch a video by Noah Kagan where he was like, it's not that great.
We'll let other folks look into that.
Yeah. But anyway, Mr. Beast, I believe is the third most popular YouTuber. He might even be
two or three, right?
Two. Yeah, he's up there. He's top 3 on all of YouTube. But his channel is growing so damn fast. It's probably only a matter of time before he's number 1. But I even watched a handful of videos that also analyzed his videos just to like even go deeper. But I don't know if you said you've never actually really watched any of Mr. Beast's videos, right?
Not really. No.
Like,
so I don't know much about it, but I know he is very clever and just smart as hell when it comes to all this stuff and on the business side too.
Well, he just spends money. Like his YouTube channel is just him spending money, but he's doing it like for like good causes and stuff. Like he'll order a pizza to his house and tip the pizza guy $10,000.
Yeah, I have heard about those. That's rad.
Yeah, he'll play games with people where he'll take he'll buy like an $800,000 mansion and he'll take the key to the mansion and put it into a fishbowl with like 1,000 other keys, and then he'll put the fishbowl out and let people like draw keys, and whoever grabs the key that opens the door to the mansion keeps the mansion.
Oh shit! Damn, dude. Yeah, I gotta watch some of that just to think of the crazy ideas of what you can do.
Yeah. Well, here's what seems crazy to me about these videos, and the thing that I noticed about Mr. Beast videos specifically is that he does just like every video is like, let's say 10, 12 minutes long, somewhere in that range. They all fall within the 10 to 20 minute range, but I would say average is like 12-ish minutes. And each video is like a string of like 30-second clips, just like bam, 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 bam. So there'll be like a clip that's like 30 seconds long that he's like, see these two dudes? They're playing football right now. For every time they pass the ball, I'm going to put $1 in this bucket, and they keep whatever they make. I'll come back to you guys later. And then it'll like jump to another clip. And he's like, here's my buddy. Reach into the fishbowl. Grab a key. If you grab the right key, you get this house. He reaches in. He grabs the wrong key. And they're like, ah. And then it jumps to another clip. And they're like, I'm ordering a pizza. And we're tipping $10,000. And the pizza comes. And he gives the guy the money. And the guy at the door is like, oh my God, you can't be serious. Ah. And then it goes to another. And it's just like frantic, like clip. And then eventually it jumps back. And it shows these guys throwing the football back and forth. And they're like, dude, you've done it. You've got a bucket of $5,000. You guys want to play double or nothing? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then he's like, okay, but you got to do a 30-yard pass this time. So they stretch out and he throws a 30-yard pass, and both these guys make $20,000, and they're like, ah, just running around on the field screaming. And then it jumps to like another clip, and it's just like, you can tell it's totally designed for like people with no attention span, because it's just like clip.
I love it. No, I mean that's probably why he's growing so much. It's like ridiculous things, but it's also such a like the attention span is reset so often before someone probably dips in their engagement on YouTube. I'm sure because I know you said he's looking at the stats. He's got the business mind behind it too. Yeah. And what, Daryl Eves, right? One of the two. Because he consults Mr. Beast, right? Like, so that's the whole thing. So, I mean, Daryl is breaking all that stuff down, and I'm sure tons of other stuff. I haven't read the book yet, but, I mean, just hearing about it, it's all organic, right? Like, so it's organic approach to YouTube.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything with ads. It's just like his videos, they're doing good into the world. Like, they make you feel good when you're watching them, because he's like literally just like giving out life-changing money to people. Like, he'll go into Walmart and he'll be like, hey, I will give you $100,000 if you quit your job at Walmart today. And like the boss will be up behind her, like behind the employee, and the boss will be like, I would do that if I was you. This is freaking Walmart.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. There's always other folks.
And like, so like these videos, they're doing good into the world, so they make you feel happy because you're seeing like this like happy value being put out into the world for people. They're like these like quick clips, so like it's hard to like not to like sort of lose attention because it's so just like frantic feeling. He uses like really, really clickbaity headlines, but the thing is, most people who use clickbaity headlines, they're putting a twist on it that's not necessarily true, right? Like they might say something like, I'm giving away $100,000 to the first person who comments on this post, and then like somebody will get onto that post and they'll be like, I have a 2 Bitcoin that I'm going to give you, and it's like it's not exactly the same, but like his videos will be like, I'm giving away a free house to the first person who comments on this, and then like the video, he literally gives away a free house to the first person that's like there, and it's like he uses what looks like clickbait, but then it's actual reality when you get into it. And
it's you actually see it like in action in front of you, and that's what I think I like about it. Obviously, I've not seen him.
Yeah, and like there's another video that I actually was watching last night where they're like, I bought a private island, and he's like, I bought this island for $700,000, and we're gonna spend the next 24 hours on it, and it's just them like surviving on an island that's like, you know, probably the size of like 2 of your properties.
Jesus. That's rad.
There's a really good interview. This is the last thing I'll say about this, but there's a really good interview with Casey Neistat interviewing Mr. Beast. I guess Mr. Beast doesn't really do many interviews or things like that, but Casey managed to get an interview with him, and he was talking to him about his approach, and he's like, from the day I started my YouTube channel, I just decided I'm going to take every cent that I make and reinvest it into making better and better and better content. So now he's gotten to the point where he's making like $100 million a year or something like that, and he's literally taking all of that money and probably paying, you know, his own expenses, his house and cars or whatever, but then after that, all the money that's left over, he's reinvesting back into content. That's how he's buying private islands and then giving the island away. That's how he's buying mansions and giving the mansions away. There's one video where he's like, I bought 40 cars and gave them all away to one person, you know, and like
one person,
yeah,
spread the wealth.
Well, that person will probably then spread the wealth, but
yeah, I'm sure.
But like literally, that's what he's doing. He's taking all of the money he's making off of YouTube and just making bigger and crazier and crazier videos. So every video seems to like up level the last video. And I think that's really where all this traction is coming from, is like, he's not okay with his last video. Every video has to one up the last one.
That's what it sounds like to me too. It's like got to be crazier. It's got to give away something bigger, just something off the wall. And like, who's not going to come back and watch that content? Like, or be hopeful that one day this will be me. So they're all living vicariously through this scenario. And I mean, it's like a reality TV show on steroids. I mean, like, I'm sure, I mean, you know, that would be a popular ass show on like FX or something, or I don't know where that thing would live. Maybe even on prime time, you know?
It's true, but here's the thing.
Maybe that's his play. I mean, doesn't need it. Obviously, he's on YouTube.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. If he was to move from YouTube to, like, NBC, like a primetime major network, he would go down in the amount of views people are watching. Yeah, if you if you look at his videos, I don't think he has a video that's less than 30 million views.
Jesus Christ.
It's just insane.
Yeah, like, and I know the whole stat is like, oh, you know, he gets more in one video than the Super Bowl does, you know, overall. I know that comparison's like drawn out, but it's almost like at this point that comparison needs to go away.
Well, yeah, because the Super Bowl's not like the freaking end all be all anymore.
Not anymore, but like it's still very impressive when you think about it. But it's also like when you think of YouTube and the legs it has from over the years of developing into this crazy media site with reach, like, dude, why wouldn't you be on YouTube trying to capitalize that real estate and, you know, whatever your niche is, be the best, be the Mr. Miss Beast of your own space. Yeah.
One channel I want to shout out that I've been actually paying attention to lately that I think it's not huge yet, but I think it's going to be huge, is actually Noah Kagan's channel. If you check out Noah Kagan's YouTube, he started to do much stronger videos. Like you can tell that he's been modeling some of these YouTubers like the Mr. Beasts of the world and going, okay, what are these guys doing? And he's trying to model some of that kind of stuff with a lot of his YouTube videos and making like some real viral content, but it's still designed for entrepreneurs. So it's almost like
he gives away a lot of stuff. I know his branding's on point. He's doing all these interesting, visually appealing types of videos. Yeah.
Yeah, right. and he's doing polarizing stuff now too, where he's like like, he's got a whole video where he calls out Ty Lopez, another video where he's calling out Grant Cardone on stuff.
Oh, yeah?
And like,
wow.
So he's doing these like polarizing, like, is this guy shady? Like, let's analyze him kind of videos. There was another video where he was analyzing different alcohols that have been put out by celebrities, and it's freaking hilarious because they're taking shots of each of these, and by the time he gets to like the 6th bottle, like him and his buddy that are doing it, they're just like trash. They're just talking nonsense at that point. Like, they're drinking a bottle of whiskey that's like under the Rocks brand, and he's like, it tastes like muscular bald man. I love it.
It's so good.
So
it's what I want every time I drink.
All that to say, pay attention to what Noah Kagan's doing, because I think he's on an upward trajectory on YouTube right now.
I just pulled it up, and I was going to just shout it out. If you just go to Noah Cake, I mean, you can find him on YouTube. We'll link it, ideally. But he has a whole channel, or not, within his channel, he has a whole section here that says $1 Million YouTube channels. And it's him, but he's talking a lot about Mr. Beast, at least lately, within the last few months. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can get a lot of this, like, breaking it down. He's breaking down some other stuff, Gary V. But yeah, I mean, shoot, I didn't realize he's talking about Mr. Beast this much. And yeah, all right, let's leave it there because I want to go down that rabbit hole later as well.
I've actually only watched one video by Noah of Mr. Beast, but now that you're saying he's got a lot more, I need to go check him out.
Like, I'm seeing on just the one thing, there's 4 of them right here, and there's even one that says Mr. Beast's manager explains how to make big money on YouTube. On YouTube.
The one video I watched was the one where Noah was explaining the Mr. Beast burger and the economics behind it. That one was really interesting. But anyway, we got to wrap up, and we got to shout out our sponsor.
Let's do it. So our sponsor is
Easy Webinar.
And I'm going to look up Easy Webinar's website so we can talk about some new stuff that we don't normally mention about Easy Webinar. Because
so we shouldn't be telling them that it does live webinars, automated webinars, hybrid we shouldn't talk about that stuff?
We can, but you know, it's really funny. Actually, I opened up their website and I found your freaking mug on the front page.
Ooh.
Did you know you were even on there?
I didn't.
Oh, no, you didn't, but you are, and you're wearing a Padre hat like you are right now, and your eyes are closed. So you look fabulous. You're under the live webinar screenshot. I don't know why. I don't know why you chose you. In general, but
and it's a screenshot from like 5 years ago too.
Yes, it is. But you look the same. You haven't. Your beard hasn't changed a day, Matt.
Well, everybody needs to go to easywebinar.com to see my silly face. But if you want to get our discount for being a listener, go to easywebinar.com/hustle.
Yeah, and if you go there /hustle, you are going to get a fat discount. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit on here. Easy Webinar, you can do. It's flexible, it's powerful, it runs everything in your business around webinars, but it does all like the landing pages and all that crazy stuff behind the scenes that you probably don't want to handle when it comes to webinars. And I was trying to look up well, you get a fat discount. I'm not going to waste your time because I was going to look up the specific disc. You can go there. easywebinar.com/hustle is the place.
Go check it out. It's cool. It's the best webinar platform.
Thanks.
Just call it as it is. And make sure you check out PodHacker. I don't think we need to do another little promo for that. We talked about it enough. Go to podhacker.com. If it's available, get it. If it's not, get on the wait list because it's cool. You'll like it.
For sure.
And share this episode.
That's it.
Yeah.
Share it around. If something was interesting here and you feel like share with some friends, I think there's some interesting things here for folks, huh? I think so, right, Matt? Right,
if you know anybody that's like a super NFT pro, cool. I think that'd be something that'd make a cool little bonus live stream episode. So make the connect.
And if you know Mr. Beast or someone who does,
we'd love the
intro.
intro.
We're looking for him too.
Yeah, we'd love the intro to Mr. Beast more because I want him to just hand me a briefcase full of cash, but I'd love to get him on the podcast too.
You just want one of his burgers personally delivered by him. That'd be cool. With a wad of cash. Why not? That just makes it even better.
Dude, the guy's like 20 or 21 too, which is freaking insane. All right.
We're all going to go down that rabbit hole. Till next time. Peace.
Alrighty. Bye-bye. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. For taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes. Thanks for listening.